It's the Burn Your Boats podcast, Timely 10. This week, Clark and David discuss the rental property pitfalls. 4 must-avoid mistakes. And now, your hosts, Clark Lunt and David Shaw.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Timely 10. My name is Clark. I'm here with David. Unfortunately, David, we're going to have to rebrand this thing to the Timely 20 or the here's a better one, the not Timely 10. I guarantee you it won't be 10 minutes. It might be 15 minutes or 25 minutes, but it won't be 10 minutes or under. We like to hear ourselves talk too much. So with that being said, today we're going to talk about, David, is quickly the 4 kind of non-negotiables that we put as a high priority when looking to buy a long-term kind of rental property that you yourself or you and your team or your company is going to hold. And when I say long-term, I don't mean like a long-term rental or a short-term rental or Airbnb. I just mean you're going to hold it for the long term, right? So with that being said, and of course, David, I've made all these mistakes times like 1,000, so it's pretty easy for me. I could do the top 16 things that you should avoid, but we don't want to make this a whole long episode, so we'll keep it to the timely, not 10. Number 1, David, is the buying low. We talk about this all the time, but just buying cheap, kind of shitty properties, and they have a septic tank. Okay, so I know right now that if I pulled up my Gmail email and I have a nice letter from my property manager about a septic tank that's just completely shot, and the bill on it is going to be, and I get to choose $8,700, 15,000, or 17,000 on a duplex that brings in a total rent of like $1,700. Okay, gross on a good day, right? And so what does that mean? That means that he just sent me an email saying, Clark, you are going to make no cash flow on this investment for the next like 96 years of my life. And that is not super exciting. And so the number 1 negotiable, it's something I will never do, and I know it's something you will never do, is I don't want to buy cheap, crappy properties anyway. And I definitely don't want to layer on another kind of layer of a septic tank, because it adds zero value to the appraisal. The tenant doesn't care. The property management doesn't care. The only person that cares is your bank account when you're stroking a check for $9,000 so that they can take do their business or take a shower or whatever that is. So, David, that's number 1. Talk to us about the next one.
Well, I just want to close out on number 1 there. If you buy a shitty house in a shitty neighborhood with a septic that it's not, every neighborhood is different. Every neighborhood, say, oh, Florida's appreciated by X or Y. That doesn't mean that your shitty D-class neighborhood has as well. It just doesn't work like that. And so that's $17,000, or let's say it's $15,000, has ripped out the cash flow for the next whatever many years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And it's probably ripped out every dime profit that you've ever made on that property. Yeah. So, and a big kicker about septic tanks on older properties like that, there's no test for them. There's no inspection on them. Your inspector can't inspect a drain field and a septic tank. They can tell you if they're pumping it, they can tell you if they're not, but they cannot tell you if the drain field is working or not working until somebody moves in and lives in the house and uses it, because it's a percolation system. Yep. And so if you're buying a new house and it's got a brand new septic system, I'm not saying don't do that, but an old shitty house in a shit neighborhood with no cash flow and shitty appreciation, and then pardon all the shitties, but we're talking about septic here.
Pun intended, actually.
Pun intended in this scenario. Just don't do that. Don't do that. It's just don't do it. Old septic systems on older, D-class properties, just avoid it. Never ever buy it. Move on to the next one. Ignoring big ticket items because, quote unquote, they work. So if you are buying a property, the amount of times I've asked this question several thousand times. How old is the roof? The answer I get is, I don't know. It doesn't leak.
It doesn't leak.
It doesn't leak. I don't know. It doesn't leak. That answer is a standard issue answer from anybody who doesn't want to tell you the roof is shot. It's run every minute of its lifespan. And it's actually the reason I'm selling the house in the first place. Because I know that my insurance company called me and said, we're not going to buy an insurance on that property unless you replace that roof. Or may also know that the air conditioning is like 14 years old. And I've got like $6,000 air conditioning bill coming down the pike. I'm going to sell that house now, but the air conditioning works. So the roof doesn't leak. The air conditioning works. The electric is good.
Good.
Big ticket items, factor that into your price that you're going to offer, and then deduct it from your offer price every single time. Don't ignore it. It can rip out years and years of appreciation and years of cash flow. So, Clark, what do you say?
What if the AC blows cold?
Oh,
It blows cold. I don't understand. What's the big deal?
yeah. What do you mean? What do you mean you want me to replace the AC or you want to discount? Because it blows cold. That's very funny. It's funny because we've heard it so many times.
Oh my God.
Right? All right, Clark, give me another one. Give me just don't do it. Just don't do this.
All right, we've all, the flavor of the month or the flavor of the time right now is kind of like you have to be able to buy higher density to be able to make any kind of cash flow, and even then you're still not, right? But so let's pretend that you're like, all right, I'm going to buy a duplex, I'm going to buy a quadplex, I'm going to buy a whatever plex, I'm going to house hack it, I'm not going to house hack it, I don't care, right? Well, a lot of times what you'll see like an entire street that's just lined with duplexes, right? And you just got junky cars, and it's like it screams the minute that you start to turn on the street, it screams like I am in rental land. And then you come to the end of the street and there's like a nice used car lot, right next to like Mama Joe's oil change place, right? And it's like all it screams is just like chaos at all times of the day, right? So all you're going to get is like transient tenants, and it's never going to change, right? So you could go in and blast out and put in a new roof, and your AC could be blowing so cold with your new AC you put in, and granite and this and that. But you walk outside and it's just like a big party outside on Tuesday at 11 a.m. There's nothing you can do about that to change the neighborhood. You can't pick your neighbors. Do not go and buy on a quote unquote multifamily street when you're buying like one duplex. Now, if you're going to buy the whole street where you can kind of control that and control your tenants, then I have probably a different opinion on it, even with the car lot at the end. But if you're just buying one duplex or two triplexes next to each other and amongst 14 others, you are always going to be fighting an uphill battle, and you're only as good as the slummiest slumlord on that street. Just don't do it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you will. The minute you start driving around and go find some duplexes and you turn on that street, you're like, I remember that timely 10 that those guys did where they said, don't buy that. This is it. So it's easy to see. It's easy to seek out. Avoid it. David?
Yeah, the amount of times you hold on. Like, let's say you go into there's 12 duplexes or there's 12 triplexes on a street. You're going to buy one of them, to your point, right? And you go there during the day, and there's a lot of cars during the day. But you're like, okay, I can kind of like, I'm here during the day. It's the time. Go there at night after work.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a freaking concert down the end of the street. Yeah. There's like 400 cars. You can barely get down the street. They're parked like it's a festival, right? And it's not a festival. That's just how many people live on this street. And then you could go in and you can gold plate your faucets. You can go in and make all of your place gorgeous, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't do that. Don't buy multifamily surrounded by high density other multifamily.
So that was a good representation of a clown show, David, and we want to avoid clown shows in real estate. I'm not sure if that's a specific term or something that you can look up, but basically, let's think about this, right? Is that you want to control your own destiny, right? That's why you buy real estate, so you can add value, you can raise rents over time, you can, create cash flow. And the problem is that when you make your units nice and you're on this clown show street with a bunch of other duplexes and triplexes, you are going to be the most expensive one, the most expensive rent. You're always going to be limited. So you're always going to have a low ceiling on your rent And that's not what we want in real estate. You want to be able to control your own destiny. You want to be able to reap the benefits of that nice new kitchen, of keeping the yard nice, of making sure that that everything is taken care of and all the repairs. But when you got a party going on 3 days a week in the middle of the street, there's nothing, it's going to outweigh any pros that you put into it. So David, last thing, and we'll hop out. I know this is something that you feel very passionately about. It's something I never looked at until I teamed up with you. So give the listeners a sense of why this thing is so important, and why should they care?
Yeah, this is the elephant in the room, and I've never once been quizzed on it ever by a real estate investor, and that's drainage issues, right? So, let's say a wholesaler would send me a deal, and I would get there, and there's a slight hill, right? And this house at the bottom of it, right? And then there's a slight hill on the other side, right? So it's this ever so subtle little bowl outside the house, where the water hits the top of that hill, drains right outside my house, and the water hits the top of the hill on the other side and drains right outside my house. And where does all that water collect? Outside my house, my front lawn. And to tell you that I've seen this 50 times already, 50 times. And how you can tell is that all the other houses, they look normal. And then outside your house is sandy. There's sand on the road just outside your driveway. Ignore that at your peril. That's number one, right? Don't ever buy real estate at the bottom of a hill, ever. Trust me on that one, right? Another one is if you are buying a home and you kind of see pipes, the gutters have got this extraordinary gutter situation where they're like guttering here and they're guttering there, or you have a big concrete slab. Let's say they've slabbed the whole backyard, right? You got to know where that water's going, right? Because there's a lot of DIY owners have been in these houses before you, right? And they put a big monster slab in the backyard because they like to throw parties on a Sunday, right? But these are not professional people, and they don't think, shoot, where's all this water going to go? The first storm comes along, they're like, shoot, this water is like getting inside the back door. So then they start putting sump pumps in and this, extraordinary drainage solution all around the home. You see pipes here, but just trust me, right? Check the drainage on any home that you're ever planning on buying, because it's subtle. It doesn't often show up on home inspection until your tenant moves in, and the tenant can be in there for 2 months, all's good in the world. And then a tenant calls you and say, I got inundated last night because it rained. Like, oh, shoot, what do I have to do here? And then you get there and you say, oh, that's what all these pipes were.
Yeah.
That's what all the sand outside was. Yeah, that's why there was like the sandy driveway, right? That's where it was. That's where all the water was going. Because, a lot of these people who know these issues exist, guess what? They sell their homes on the dry season. They don't sell their, we're in Florida, we have a dry season and a wet season. And so drainage, you just, every single time, go to the home, make sure you're not at the bottom of a hill. Because I had the honesty to look at a deal and say, this is not the best. I can make a lot of money here. I can buy this house and renovate it and sell it, right? But if I buy this house and renovate and sell it, and I put a tenant in and I sell it to an investor, that investor is going to end up one day with a massive flood outside their house, right? And their tenant can't get out of the house. Tenant doesn't like it. The yard looks like a mushy playing field, and the tenant wants to leave, and they have a massive drainage problem. And guess what? You can't move a house to the end of a hill. You can't sort out a drainage problem for the whole neighborhood. You've got a little house. Drainage issues, stay away from them, understand them, talk to your home inspector about them. If there's anything weird about a house, don't say, oh, that last person might have been a little bit of a strange character. I've come to realize over the years, Clark, that if there's something strange and you see something strange, there's a reason for it. And you have to try and get into their brain and say, why did somebody do this thing?
Right.
Because they did it for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it right there. That's the drainage issue. Tell me about yours. You have any good big drainage issue horror stories?
The one that comes out to my mind is a house that I bought, and it literally had like a web of like gutters and downspouts, and it looked like a maze. It looked like, you know, the things where they put the little gerbil or whatever, and they go through the maze with where they go in the wheel and they go through the different things. That's what it looked like in the backyard. And it was like, what in the hell? You don't even know what the hell's going on. You're like, why would someone go through all this trouble? And what you haven't lived for the last 3 years of water backing up through the back sliding glass door from the patio into the house every time that it rains more than like a quarter of an inch, right? And obviously there's no disclosure of that or no promotion of that. And it's just a gigantic, you know, it's a gigantic shit show. And it's just, it's something that hopefully you'll chuckle. So David, here's what I'm taking away is that if you're on a multifamily street with a ton of duplexes, you're at the bottom of the hill, you got an old roof with an old AC, and you've got a intricate gutter system in the backyard, you probably should walk away from that deal.
Yeah, that sums it up well right there. Cheap shit, and you know, with septic tanks and drainage issues and high density multifamily. That just they're my four main. Just don't do it. Walk away. Buy quality every single time.
Yep. So with that, guys, we're going to get out of here. We've got it under 20 minutes, I believe. So I give ourselves a pat on the back. Hopefully these 4 steps are 4 things that you really need to look out for. And it's just through, challenges that we've had in the past, and we made some mistakes that we've made that we would never do again. And I don't want you to do them because they just cost you money and they give you a bad experience, and they may stop you from investing in the future because you had such a crappy experience. And that is the biggest sin of everything. So with that
is right. And remember, all of these 4 things, nobody's going to tell. The seller or your realtor just not going to tell you about these things. The reason we raise these 4 things is they show up. Nobody's going to tell you. So we've told you. So there you go. Let's move on.
All right.
Next time.
Guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. And as always, we appreciate 5-star reviews on Apple, Spotify, comments on YouTube. We love it at Burn Your Boats Wealth. And if you have any questions, you want to reach out to us on social media, DM us. Contact at burnyourboatswealth.com is our email address. We'd love to hear from you for topics that you'd like us to talk about, things you don't agree with. And with that, David, I think we're out.
See you later, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to the Timely 10. Be sure to click the like button and share, and connect with us on social media. Content in Burn Your Boats podcast is for entertainment purposes only and is not legal or financial advice. Please review our legal disclaimer at burnyourboatswealth.com.